I didn't build the berm to make a statement. I built it to survive. After the flood of 21, when the river behind the subdivision surged over its banks and swallowed half my backyard, I swore water would never get that close again. That storm shredded fences, poured through garage doors, and filled living rooms with knee-deep brown sludge. We lost family keepsakes. The neighbor 2 doors down gutted their entire first floor. I was lucky my house sat a little higher, and I'd stacked sandbags in time, but it was too close. Way too damn close. So the next spring I spent 3 weekends hauling dirt and stacking retaining stone. I'd been an Army logistics officer. I understood load distribution and runoff patterns better than any HOA landscaper. I didn't ask permission. I didn't need to. The berm was entirely on my land, set 10 feet inside the property line, compacted and sloped to divert water away from the house and into the swale that fed the public storm drain. I even seeded native grasses to prevent erosion. It wasn't pretty, I'll admit. It looked like a 6-foot earthen shoulder running across the back third of the yard, but it was solid and it worked. The next rainy season, dry basement, dry lawn, and the first peace of mind I'd had in years. That should have been the end of it. But this was East Briar Trails, a neighborhood where the HOA prized uniform hedges over emergency preparedness, where house colors required pre-approval, mailboxes couldn't vary by more than 10 inches. And God forbid a dandelion appear before lawn inspection. At first it was whispers, passive-aggressive jabs over the fence. Someone building a bunker? New mountain range, Frank? Hope it doesn't collapse and flood our yards next. Then came the knock. Saturday morning. I'd barely finished my coffee when Diane Mayer, HOA vice president, strutted up the porch in her tennis skirt and clipboard like she was inspecting troops. She didn't say hello. "This isn't in compliance," she said, gesturing toward the backyard with a tone dripping superiority. "We've had reports. It's not consistent with community aesthetics." I blinked. "It's dirt. Functional dirt on my property." She pursed her lips. "It affects runoff patterns. Actually, it improves runoff. I used elevation maps. Water moves faster into the drain channels now instead of pooling." "That may be your opinion," she said, clearly annoyed I hadn't folded under her tone. "But it's still subject to community review." "Diane, the HOA rules don't cover storm berms. This isn't a retaining wall or a shed. It's landscape-grade terrain adjustment." She clicked her pen. "We'll be issuing a formal notice. You'll need to remove it within 30 days. That was the first time I felt the slow boil, that specific anger that bubbles not from yelling, but from being dismissed. From knowing you're right, yet still being stepped on by someone hiding behind the word Times Policy asterisk. Still, I stayed calm. I did my research, pulled municipal codes, soil engineering studies, even talked to a friend at the county hydrology office. Everything I'd done was legal and permitted. The HOA had no say. I sent my rebuttal. 3 days later, the notice arrived. A thick white envelope. HOA emblem, stamped in gold, like royalty inside. Formal demand to remove the Times unauthorized land modification times or face fines of hundreds per day starting in 2 weeks. Holding it, rereading it, heat built in my chest. Asterisk. Unauthorized. Asterisk. They had no authority to regulate earthwork on private lots that didn't obstruct common areas or easements. And they damn well knew it. But what stung wasn't the fine. It was what it meant. All my effort, my preparation, my trauma from the flood, none of it mattered to them. All they saw was a mound that didn't match their pristine Pinterest backyard vision. Something different. And they wanted it gone. I paced the living room, jaw clenched, fists tight. The photo albums I'd rescued from floodwater 2 years earlier sat on the shelf like silent witnesses. The smell of mud had taken weeks to get out of the baseboards that time, and now they wanted me to invite that chaos back in. Not a chance. Find me. I'd go broke before I tore down that berm. I'd already lived through one disaster. I wasn't letting petty bureaucracy set me up for another. But I knew this wouldn't end with letters. No, they wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted, or until I made damn sure the whole neighborhood knew what they were doing. And I wasn't just a homeowner. I was a veteran. I knew how to fight. The second letter was colder. Less than a week later, on thicker paper, notarized stamp, phrasing straight from a law office. Asterisk, asterisk. Final compliance warning. Asterisk, asterisk. Failure to remove unauthorized earthwork within. Asterisk, asterisk. 10 days asterisk, asterisk. Will result in enforcement action under Article 9, Section D of the East Briar Trails Homeowners Association Covenant. Asterisk. Enforcement action. Asterisk. The phrase sat in my gut like lead. I'd seen those words before in base housing during my service. Back then it meant they'd bring the full weight of regulation down on you, whether you'd earned it or not. This time it meant the HOA could come onto my land. It meant they could hire a contractor to destroy the berm and bill me for the cost. I called the number at the bottom voicemail, left a message, polite but firm. Cited city ordinances again, quoted exact clauses about private landscaping rights, requested a meeting with the board before further action, waited 3 days, no response. On the 4th day, I went to their monthly open meeting. It was held in the community clubhouse, vaulted ceilings, chandeliers pretending to be wrought iron, rows of stackable chairs like a church social. I arrived 15 minutes early, sat in the second row, watched the room fill with maybe 30 residents, mostly retirees, who liked staying involved. The board sat behind a long folding table up front, 5 of them. Diane Mayer in the center, arms folded, wearing that power cardigan look she favored. Next to her, Brent Callahan, HOA president, always looking seconds away from selling you a reverse mortgage. They opened with budget updates, landscaping contracts, back and forth about playground maintenance. Nobody mentioned my case, not a whisper. I waited. When they got to open comments, I stood. My name is Frank Delaney. I live at 1427 Pine Wash Drive. I'm here to discuss the compliance letters regarding my storm berm. A few heads turned. Brent offered a vague nod. I'd like to formally request the board cease any enforcement action. It was constructed within all municipal guidelines. It improves drainage. It's on private property. I've submitted evidence but received no reply. Diane cleared her throat. Mr. Delaney, she said, voice wrapped in fake diplomacy. The berm is not in harmony with the visual aesthetic of East Briar Trails. It violates Article 3, Section A, regarding structural alterations. I nodded. I was ready. Article 3, Section A, refers to buildings and fixtures. Earthwork landscaping is specifically exempted under city code, unless it encroaches on easements or common property, which this doesn't. Brent leaned forward. We've had complaints, Mr. Delaney. Residents have voiced concerns about water diversion and property values. None of them have engineering credentials. I shot back, keeping my tone calm. And none of them were there when the flood of 21 nearly ruined my home. The berm protects my property and possibly theirs. A murmur stirred. One elderly man in the back spoke up. Didn't Frank's house stop the water from reaching ours last time? I turned, surprised. It was Paul Becker, quiet guy, retired postal worker. His home was 3 lots downhill from mine. Yeah, another voice chimed in. That berm helped. Water ran off into the drains faster. Diane held up her hand. Please, this is not a debate. The board has made its position clear. And I'm making mine clear, I said. If you move forward with this enforcement, I will take legal action. I have documentation, soil surveys, and I'm prepared to take this to the Municipal Zoning Commission. Brent frowned, visibly annoyed. That won't be necessary. But I saw a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. The board might be used to pushing residents around over mailbox colors and patio umbrellas, but this was different. This wasn't style preference. It was safety. It was science. And now it was personal. They closed the meeting without another word about it. 2 days later, the 3rd letter. Short. 1 paragraph. Asterisk. Per board decision, enforcement action will proceed on May 3rd. Contractor services have been scheduled. Asterisk. No signatures, no contact info. Just the HOA seal and the threat. I circled the date in red ink on my wall calendar, then grabbed my phone and started making calls. I spoke to the city zoning office. They had no jurisdiction over HOA decisions. But if my berm was legal, the HOA couldn't claim it violated city code. I asked for documentation proving that. They emailed a PDF that became my new best friend. Next, I called a land use attorney named Arlene Simmons, a woman I'd met at a town hall a year earlier. Sharp, direct, no minced words. They can't demolish your property without due process, she said. But they'll try to claim it's not property, just landscaping. Gray area. Can I stop them? Maybe, but you'd need an injunction before May 3rd. I looked out the window at the berm, standing solid and quiet like a loyal soldier. And I knew this wasn't just about a mound of dirt anymore. It was principle. It was not letting power bully logic. It was standing your ground, literally. So I filed the paperwork and waited. But the HOA moved faster. When I came home from the grocery store on April 30th, there was a wooden stake hammered into my backyard with orange ribbon fluttering in the breeze, spray paint on the grass, survey lines, and a laminated sign from the contractor. *** demolition scheduled, May 3 RD. Authorized by East Briar Trails, HOA. ***. They weren't bluffing. They were coming.